Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however, wherever, whenever you're listening. This is the Root for Wisconsin Show, episode 137, coming at you from the Riverwood Gallery Studio in De Pere, Wisconsin. I'm host, producer of the Big E, Eric Fisher. Joining me this week, member of the Highway 22 crew, Sean Klosterman. Sean, how you doing, buddy? Welcome back. It's been a few weeks.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. No Dylan this week. He is out sick. You guys got to get it together. I'm just putting that out there.
Right. I know. Internet issues last week.
How is that, by the way? Has it been fixed yet?
Yeah, we got a router Friday.
Nice.
Even though it's not that old, but for some reason our router quit.
Huh.
Really dumb.
Shauna may or may not be joining us later in the episode. We'll see. Not ruling it out. She's a little preoccupied right now with the hustle. So she's busy tutoring. So it's just me and Sean for right now. Like I said, maybe she'll join us a little later in the episode. If not, buckle up because we have a lot to talk about this week. We start off with always talking with our friends over at Raging Pro Wrestling, RPW, with their next event coming up on February 10th at the Watering Hole in Green Bay. Tickets are still available at Look Sharp at the Fox River Mall, as well as the Watering Hole itself and RagingProWrestling.com and their social media pages, so be sure to check them out. Matches being announced, videos being announced pretty much on a regular daily basis. Mm-hmm. So be sure to check that out and pay attention to them as they build up for their potentially last show scheduled for the Watering Hole for quite some time. So pay attention to that as well for future locations of future shows. We've also got our friends over at Raise Energy, repsports.com, code ROOT4, ROOT, number 4, gets you 15% off of any order. That's code ROOT4, ROOT, number 4, for their lifestyle energy drink products. With that, Sean, we can get right into the episode this week and start off with what we had rooted for in the last week from myself, or what, the last month for you?
It hasn't been that long.
I know, I'm just kidding.
It's only been 2 weeks.
So with that in mind, Sean, what do you got for us?
So we talked before the episode started, but I'm going to change my whole thing. I'm going to go, my root for is going to be Simone Biles.
Okay. Why?
Because she was so happy with the guy giving her the goat, or the, what is that, a headdress?
Headband, or hat. It was a hat.
Right. It's like foam and everything like that. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, the Frozen Tundra guy. I don't know what his actual name is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Frozen Tundra guy, after the Packers-Chiefs game, gave her a goat hat and then made a Jonathan Owens player hat for her husband, not to leave him out.
And just how she's embracing everything that Green Bay has to offer. It's just been nice to see.
I will say, I mean, last week and a little bit later in the episode, we're not quite done with it yet, but for all the hype around the Taylor Swift appearance in Green Bay, it's kind of amazing when you really think about how the other celebrity fans the Packers have out there and how they all embrace it. And then this turned now a Packers wife and other Packers wives for that matter too. I mean, you talk about Gabby Dillon is all over the place in the community, and a number of other Packer wives.
Mason Crosby's wife
was everywhere. So
who's the other guy that was at the Packer game Sunday? Monk.
Yep, the actor that played Monk. He's a Green Bay native. Yep. Went to UW Green Bay as well. Liv Morgan was there.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that he went to Green Bay or lived in Green Bay. I did not know that.
Fun fact. Liv Morgan was there, WWE superstar. Lil Wayne did the Sunday Night Football entrance. Not the song, obviously, that's Carrie Underwood, but did kind of a talk over about Titletown and the lights and all that. So yeah, that's just a very select few celebrity Packer fans. There's a considerable amount more. Just off the top of my head, I know Justin Timberlake, Harry Styles, Anthony Davis, all big Packer fans as well. I know there's a lot more.
Mr. Miyagi when he was alive.
That's true. Eric, Sean, we're kind of in the same.
Yeah, right. Yep.
We're on the internet.
We're on the same boat as Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a great root for, and absolutely, like you said, just embracing the Packer culture and the team and the city for that matter too. Even when she was here, when her and Aaron Rodgers were together, Olivia Munn talking about going to Maplewood and all that. So yeah, it is really refreshing when these people who
have been all over the world
and kind of adapt to our quiet, slow lifestyles here in Wisconsin, where like Aaron Rodgers talks about going to India, Bhavan, and Maplewood as highlights of being here.
Right.
So that's a great root for.
That's what I'm here for.
My root for the week. I was just talking about this, and I already blanked out. Oh, I didn't talk about this one out loud. I don't honestly just, and I know they lost today, but the Green Bay Phoenix women have been just on an impressive tear. Getting votes the last 2 weeks in the AP poll, probably won't after today's loss because this is only a game for the week. Lost by 2 to DePaul today. But yes, it's a very, it's a powerhouse in the mid-major level. But it's never not shocking when they're already taken down 2 top 25 opponents this early on in the season. And for that matter, the Green Bay men have already surpassed their win total from last year. Another big win for them on Saturday against CW Milwaukee men, going to 4 wins and holding serve at home. They're 3-0 at home this season. So it's really amazing to me. And I talked about this on the episode last week a little bit about how just a change in culture, a new coach, basically a brand new roster can really change in 1 year with college basketball. And Coach Wicks, last week, Green Bay takes on St. Thomas of Minnesota, a team that beat them by 20 the year before. And Green Bay buckles down. They, play their game, and they never trailed in the game. They win by 13. So just the difference a year makes in these two teams. So did want to make mention of that. And really, nothing against Marquette fans, but really bad day for college basketball fans in the city of Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
Marquette gets upset by Wisconsin. Milwaukee gets upset by Green Bay. Great day for me personally. I don't really have a dog in the Badgers Marquette fight. I root for both, but always great when Green Bay can beat Milwaukee as well. Dylan did want to participate a little bit in the episode. He did want to shout out Oshkosh native Tyrese Halliburton in his root for the week.
Been balling out, an absolute superstar in the making, playing for the Pacers, and one of those guys that really holds, again, talk about Simone Biles and people embracing the Northeast Wisconsin culture, just a guy who still, as he rises to superstardom in the NBA, really has that Oshkosh roots firmly planted. So I did want to make mention of that as well. Before we move on to the next part, Sean, I know that you weren't here last week, and I gave homework last week, so you're not getting out of it. Damn.
But so last week's episode, we had talked about kind of what the first part of this was in our Root 4 segment was what we were thankful for in the sports world, and something that you were thankful that you've gotten to witness as a sports fan.
I've gotten to witness. I think just being able to see a place like Lambeau Field and being able to go there whenever you want. It's just one of those things that you take for granted a lot of times.
Sure.
So I think because people all over the world want to come to see it, and we can see it any day we want to go see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll kind of go that route.
All right, moving on to the next part here, we've got our Noogie segment. This does return after a week off. We'll get to yours here in a second because we did have last week's homework as well that Sean was not here for. So I take that back. We're going to start with that before we get into the negatives.
Oh, man.
So the other part of the Noogie was a positive last week. So last week we had talked about
what changed. Why were you so positive?
It just came off Thanksgiving. Now we're back into
a food coma.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff happened over the weekend. So I'm ready to talk about a lot of stuff.
Right.
But so with that, Sean, the second part of your homework last week was to kind of talk about, this really was spotlighted with the Alabama or Auburn game where these student sections were crying after the loss and just kind of embracing the emotion of sports. And it kind of got a lot of people, like as the internet does, all the memes and stuff of these people. But it also really makes you think about how much emotion is in sports and how deep rooted in a lot of people's lives it is. So, Sean, I know we just talked about what you are thankful that you get to witness or participate in, but if you can think about a moment or moments that really made you love sports growing up, or what made you really fall in love with it?
So the moment that always comes to my mind is probably when I was this was high school, I think. The David Freese game.
Boo.
I know, but that is one of the coolest moments that I've ever watched on TV, and it's still one of those things that just gives you a little bit of goosebumps. I think it was Game 6.
It was an elimination game for the Cardinals
for the World Series,
for
right?
the World Series, and multiple times throughout. I mean, the Cardinals were down to their last strike like 3 times, and I think all 3 times it was David Freese at bat.
Mm-hmm. And it was just one of those things that you remember where you were when you watched it, and it still goes around in your head about how something like that can happen, and guy just gets red hot with the bat, and you can't get him out.
Mm-hmm.
Still one of my favorite moments, even though it's the Cardinals, but it's still one of my favorite moments.
That is a good one. As a baseball fan, as mad as I was that year, and I still hold on to that one because that was 2011 when the Brewers lost to the Cardinals in the NLCS. But as mad as I was, like you said, that's the postseason, and all sports really have that ability to make heroes out of people who, you know, they don't have the shiniest career.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, that's a good one. Any others that come to mind? I don't know if you listened to the episode last week.
No,
Of course not. Thanks, by the way.
That's what I'm here for. Sorry, I blew up.
One big one we had talked about was the Brett Favre Raiders game.
Yep.
And then Dylan made mention of it, and I hadn't even really thought about it this way, but just watching sports with dads, like both our dads, and kind of, it's something to do. I remember I talked about it last week of watching, you know, especially in the summer where, and you know this, my dad had worked, like he worked super late hours.
Right.
But basically in the summer, there's almost always a baseball game on.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes home, and it's just it's a quiet way for him to unwind and, have something on in the background as you're kind of unwinding from the day. But you can kind of sit there, you get excited, if they're winning or if they're losing. It's just, a good way to just hang out.
Right.
So that was another one for us.
Another thing that comes to my mind too is when I'm growing up, I used to always go watch. My cousins were like 10 years older than me.
Sure.
Growing up, so going to watch their high school basketball, football, baseball, wrestling, kind of all that stuff, and going and watching those just kind of brings you back.
Sure.
Thinking about stuff like that, and just watching that as you're growing up, and that's what you want to do, and that kind of stuff.
So I got to ask, because I asked this to Dylan last week. You go to every high school football game, there's the kids who are in the bleachers with their parents, and there's the kids who are wandering around playing football behind the bleachers. Which one were you?
A little bit of both. It kind of depended on if your friends were there or if you were there to just sit and watch.
It's a good answer.
So I was a little bit of both. I will admit that. More so sitting in the stands, just watching.
Yeah. That's where I felt too. Dylan was talking about how he was always playing in the behind the bleachers. I think he said till he got the crap kicked out of him one night, because that's always what happens, right? There's a kid who's like a grade or two older than you, and just, you get a little too aggressive on a play, and they take the wood to you, and then you're kind of done.
Yep,
I'm gonna go sit
happens.
down. All right. So away from the positivity, let's get into the true nature of the noogie. Sean, I'm gonna let you go first because it's been a while since you've been on.
You're gonna let me go first?
Yeah. I've got a couple loaded up, so I'm curious where you're going on this.
I'm going to go NFL officiating.
Easy one.
Easy one. I know. I'm gonna take the low-hanging fruit.
It is an easy one. Why, Sean? What happened?
They get paid way too much for everything they do.
What are you talking about? What happened, Sean?
Just egregious calls all weekend, and it was just terrible. Like, it does. You could put a high school ref out there, and you could get the same thing. And these guys are paid $250,000 a year.
I don't get how there's no accountability for them, but if a coach or player criticizes them, they get fined.
Right.
And they're not full-time employees.
Yeah.
So what are we protecting these referees from?
It's a multi-billion-dollar company, and you don't have professional refs.
Right. You have full-time lawyers who are in decent enough shape to run up and down the field, which is a lot of work.
Right.
And you're gonna have a human element of a game. There's no such thing as a perfect game, but specifically for Sunday Night Football.
Well, I won't even go Sunday Night Football. I'll go the 3:30 game with the Dre Greenlaw fighting with the what is it? The
security. Head of security.
I was going to say security guard, but the head of security for the Eagles. It's like, so why did that guy didn't do anything and he got removed from the sideline?
Right.
And got a penalty on his team.
Terrible.
And why can't the whole thing in New York we're able to review everything?
Supposed to have an eye in the sky.
Why can't we look at this stuff and it takes 30 seconds to call them and be like, yep, you got it wrong. Switch it. Move on.
Right. And that's they have a designated official in the booth.
Right.
Did you see that?
No.
On the bottom of so we got the Badger Michigan State game on, and they were trying to show a graphic. So they had Chucky Hepburn, and underneath it said free edit text. It's always funny. No, and the Sunday Night Football game obviously gets a hyper focus, A, because prime time, and B, because the Packers were in it for us. So we're watching it even closer with higher scrutiny. And again, I get that there's going to be missed calls. That's a human element of a game. But the fact, and it ended up benefiting the Packers on the one play, but the errors down the stretch in the crucial moments of that game, you always say, don't be in a position where the referees can't impact a game.
Right.
Like a referee's never going to be the one to decide a game, but they're definitely impacting it.
Right. 100%.
And when you get, there are so many small things. I mean, it was a very weak pass interference call that ends up leading to the Keyshawn Nixon interception the next play. So, you kind of have a ball don't lie moment there.
Right.
Right. You have on that final drive prior to, or I think it was just after the Jonathan Owens penalty, but you have leading up to the potential Hail Mary attempt, you have a MVS try and get down, and he's very clearly going backwards. And you don't keep the clock going.
Yep.
And then of course the Mahomes play, which the dude was still a runner. He was angling for a first down.
Mm-hmm.
Foot was fully in bounds. Other foot was also in the air, so it wasn't like he was, had 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Right.
The missed pass interference call, even though it goes, and helps Green Bay, it's still that's egregiously bad.
Right.
And then the fact that, again, there's very little accountability. They get, they have their pool reporter breakdown where they have like one referee kind of answer all the questions. But even there, it's, they get to phone in their answer. Like, yeah, the judging referee or the calling referee didn't see it that way.
They give the best lawyer answers.
They do. They give a customer service lawyer answer.
Right.
And it's basically says nothing, while also saying, yeah, this is what it was and what we believed. But no one gets to go back and say, well, no, it probably was wrong.
Right.
And I even get, I give a little bit, a little homerism there. It's okay. First of all, they just messed up on the one. But even if you argue like maybe Valentine's trying to play the ball, he wasn't there. Like,
no.
It was pass interference.
Right.
And that's a rookie who, in college, it's a 15-yard penalty.
Mm-hmm.
That's a spot foul of the NFL.
Which, why don't you just change it and make it a 15-yard penalty?
I think if you do that, then you're going to have a lot more of it because there's not as serious of a consequence.
But I mean, it's still.
But at the same time, like I get where you're coming from on it too. So is that your only nugget this week?
Yeah, I think so.
You sure?
Did I have a nugget earlier? I don't remember.
You did. I'll take my low-hanging fruit one to see if you remember it, because I also had one too.
No, do I remember? No, I don't remember.
So my low-hanging fruit one is going to be the whole surrounding of having a 4-team college football playoff. And with this in mind, I'm going to just down the whole system, because on the one hand, if I'm a Florida State fan, I'm pissed, right? Like, by definition, they did everything that they had to. They were 13-0. They won their conference championship. They basically don't get in because their starting quarterback got hurt, which is a big deal. That guy was a Heisman caliber, like Heisman finalist type candidate player. But it's not like it happened in the last game. And here's my ultimate beef with that. That in particular is that the committee to this point has awarded teams who, we can look back and say they had no business being in the college football playoff, but the committee's awarded them in the past for having the resume. And of all years to go away from that and go based on what's going to make good games, you do it in the final year of 4 teams, which, again, like I said, if I'm a Florida State fan, I'm sitting here pissed off at the world because you're basically saying that that one player that they played without for 2.5 weeks means that they don't get the championship opportunity for the other 39 guys.
Right.
39 when you figure in starters, rotational guys, whatever. 39, 40 some odd guys.
And they still had a better strength of schedule than Alabama.
Right, and we're 3-0. I think they had an equal amount of wins against top 25s.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, make of that what you will.
But you're not putting the SEC championship winner in the playoff. That's what it is. It's all about the SEC.
Yeah,
but
it's a one-loss SEC champion versus an undefeated ACC champion.
Right.
So I guess I'm looking forward to the where it's 12. And let's avoid all these headaches with it.
I'm just waiting for the first 112
upset
to happen.
That'll be great, won't it?
Right.
It won't be for some time, but
you don't think so?
I don't, because I think there was legitimately this year where there was, I think 5 teams that are going to be able to contend, and I don't think Florida State was going to, even with Jordan Travis being healthy.
No.
But
did you also see that? I seen them talking about one of the sports stations. I don't remember which one it was or which show it was, but they were talking that if Deion Sanders was the coach of Florida State, that they would be in the playoff.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
I mean,
just for the media poll, and
the reality of the situation is the committee valued this season as to what would actually be the best game versus who deserved to be there, which that's their right to do so. I get it.
They get paid way more than we do to make these decisions. So
right. I'm very curious on that. Florida State, was it Florida State Liberty is the game that they're in?
The Liberty Bowl?
I think that's their opponent, Liberty University.
Oh, really?
I think so.
That I didn't know.
I want to make sure I get this right, because I think whoever Florida State plays, they're going to kick the shit out of. I think they're going to go out with a point to prove.
Oh, 100%.
And go in. Kind of like a couple years back where Miami, or a number of years ago, Miami didn't get the nod to play in the national championship game, even though they had a better resume.
Yep.
And went and just beat the hell out of Florida.
Yep. Where is it here? I'm looking. This is great podcasting right now.
It really is. I'm gonna find it.
They played Georgia.
Oh,
they played Georgia in the Orange Bowl. That'll be a really good game.
Maybe not.
So you think if they get blown out by Georgia, it makes the playoff look better?
I don't know.
Because you think about it, we would have got in that Orange Bowl, we would have got a Alabama Georgia rematch.
In theory, yeah. I don't know if they would have done 2 conference teams. I think the Bulls would have probably separated a little bit.
It would have put Ohio State in that.
It would have probably been Iowa, Alabama the Citrus Bowl. Or maybe they bump Liberty from the Fiesta Bowl.
Or you make Oregon against Georgia.
Something to that effect.
That'd be cool.
But it's kind of one of those, I guess, all's well that ends well type things.
Right. It's gonna be a good game. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's a 14-point favorite as of right now, which feels about right. But also, we don't know who from Georgia's all going to play. And like I said, if Florida State, I think they're going to want to come out and prove something.
Right.
So I think it's not going to be the business as usual game for Georgia, and it's going to be a lot more to them. Anyway, I was kind of teasing here. So I have 2 nuggies here that I'm also going to give. One I'm going to give to you.
To me?
for the noogie that you were going to give in the pre-show meeting
fantasy
about
football.
fantasy football. So Sean has been complaining for the better part of 2 days now.
Just one.
It was at least Sunday afternoon and yesterday, and a little bit today. So it's been the better part of really 3 days, Sean. 3 days you've been complaining about fantasy football playoffs because in the podcast league, and this is our other chance to mention the podcast league. It's been a few weeks since we updated this. The podcast league, Sean is going to get bounced out of the first round of the playoffs because of the 2-week playoff system, which has been a staple of this league. And actually,
for 1 year.
It's been this for 3 years.
Has it been 3 years?
All 3 years that we've had the podcast league, we've had the 3-week play or the 2-week playoff, which I think is a big. I love having it because I think it kind of gives a little more wiggle room in the playoff games. You have to be the best team twice.
Yeah, but the issue I have with it is you lose your buys. Like you're still having bye weeks.
Sure. But that's also trying to avoid not having to play on weeks 18 when teams are pulling starters.
You still don't play week 18 in the with the playoff schedule.
I think our money league does.
No, it's done on week 17.
Well, in that case, we may need to evaluate that next year.
So I'm just throwing. I'm not trying to. Say I got bounced out in first round of the playoff. No, nothing that way. You're making it look that way.
It's hard to deny that, Sean, especially when you've been in favor of this 2-week playoff when it's benefited you in the years past.
Not true. Never been in favor of it.
You were pretty happy about it last year. There was a game where it worked out for you last year.
No.
Regardless, all I'm gonna say is between that one and then in one of our other leagues where you're all mad because I have a first round bye clinched, even though you have a better record.
I have 2 wins on you, and you still have a first round bye.
That's because I'm in a different division.
You're the only team that made the playoff in that division.
That's not my fault. I'm not the commissioner in that one. Aaron, if you're listening, Sean has beef with you. I got nothing in that one. I am gladly reaping the benefits of it.
Yeah, because you would have been out if Mark would have won, or if Crocker would have won.
Oh no, I just clinched a week early.
Oh.
There's one more week of the regular season.
Oh,
and I think because I won this week in that one anyway, so I think I would have clinched with just a win. But it was a very tight game going into Monday Night Football. So Mark with a barely full lineup, or had 2 guys on bye, ends up beating our friend Aaron, who's the commissioner, and
leave it to Mark.
Sneaks or locks up the number 1 seed in our division, the number 2 seed overall up for me. So I'll take that. Going back to the podcast league, I do want to update our loyal listeners on this, even though most of them who are listening are already aware of these things. But for those of you that aren't, playoffs started 2 weeks ago, and Tyson and Shauna had the first round buys.
Which we might have to switch up the divisions next year.
Yeah.
We might have to start a new league and just.
Well, I think I can manually just.
Oh, can you?
That.
Can you? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if you could if you had to start a whole new league or anything that way.
I will give. I mean, Shauna did have a 6-5. She's kind of the same thing.
Right.
She was a 6-5, 2 seed, where all of us in the 3, 4, 5, 6 all had equal or better records. But so Tyson gets the first round bye. He's the 1 seed. Shauna's the 2 seed. Christian Mingle, which was you, Sean, loses to Built Ford Tough, the 3 versus 6 upset.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes down after the 2 week score of 294.12 to 251.72. And I beat Ramsey 239.88 to 219.22. So I will go on to play Team Tyson, the U Hala Hala, and David moves on to play Secretary Shauna.
Which still doesn't make, because shouldn't it be the other way? Shouldn't the 1 seed get the worst seed?
I don't think it reseeds.
It doesn't reseed itself.
I think it just goes based on the bracket. Which I mean I'd be in favor of, but
you'd want to play Shauna and knock her out of the playoff.
It was a good feeling last year when I did it, and
you might have a chance in the championship. She's got to do her lineup though. She's got to remember to do her lineup these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, if I play her for the championship, there is going to be some tension in the Riverwood Tower Studio apartment.
Oh, trade deadline's already gone. I could have traded her, everybody.
Oh, well. So that'll be the next 2 weeks. We've got weeks 14 and 15, and then championships week 16 and 17. So we'll see how that all plays out. Should be a very exciting time as the league goes on. And Sean is at home playing in the consolation bracket versus Ramsey in the 4 versus 5 or 3 versus 4.
Right.
In that winner's consolation bracket. So good season, Sean.
Made the playoffs. That's all that matters.
A healthy 7-4 season. All for naught.
It happens.
Not going to get the WWE belt this year.
Should have got it last year.
I can't help what happened on Monday Night Football. A guy almost died, Sean.
Well, that helped me in the other leagues. So
True. All right. My other nugget, just real quick. Talking
we're still
about
on Noogies.
Yeah, I had a lot to say this week. I'm going to make this one as fast as possible, but I'm going to give it to the Packers, not because of anything on the field. They've actually been a blast to watch on the field, and I don't actually know who to blame for this one, so it's going to be the Packers.
The organization as a whole.
Yes. So every year, the Packers usually do 2 to 3 autograph signings partnered with Salvation Army. It's usually like a $50 donation, minimum donation, but you get like 4 players' autographs for that. And it's usually 4 pretty good players. Last night was supposed to be the signing, the second one at Lambeau Field, and announced last week for the signing was Christian Watson, Jair Alexander, Romeo Doubs, and Quay Walker. A very healthy, I mean, that's a very big 4. And we got there, so the signing itself was supposed to start at 5. We got there probably about 4:40, and there was several hundred people there. Like the line was from where the Hall of Fame desk is kind of where it started by the elevators there, and it went zigzagging back all the way to the doors facing Lombardi, and then like kind of weirdly snaked back around again. So there was probably 300-400 people there last night, and this is where the nuggie. So Christian Watson ends up getting hurt Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. Has the hamstring injury, and I don't know if he actually ended up returning to the game. I thought I saw him on a couple plays.
I don't think he did.
Regardless if he did or didn't, it steals the attention because he had a great game, and Jair wasn't an inactive player for that game. And anyway, so I mentioned this because about an hour and a half before the signing string, so about 3:45 or so, on a Green Bay Packer memorabilia collector Facebook page, one of the guys who's already there posts that Christian Watson's not showing up or not able to come, and that Jair Alexander is also 50-50 if he's coming. No official word given by the players or the organization. It's assumed because of the injury that Watson's not coming, whether it be like rehabs, work or, whatever the situation is. And I'm not necessarily even blaming the players per se, because I get it. It's day after a game. It's, it was a late night the night before. It's, again, both of these guys are on the injury report and very well could have had rehab work to do with the training staff or something, or even like a specific, like, rest work. It could have been any number of things. I'm not going to speculate on that. But so those two guys, it's already announced. And then the report was that Kingsley Enagbare was going to show up for Christian Watson, and the team was frantically trying to work on getting a replacement for Jair if he's unable to make it. So we get there at, like I said, 4:40 in the line. Again, a lot of people there, a lot of kids there, and as we kind of go through and the line starts slowly moving, about 5:10, is what it is. I'm not going to criticize anybody for showing up late. That's just is what it is. Line starts moving, and I mean, it's going decent speed. It's not like a problem. But then the words kind of trickling between, people who are there, that it's only Kingsley and Romeo Doubs. And on the Facebook group that I'm part of, there's also a number of us kind of chit-chatting back and forth on this post, giving each other updates. And then about 5:40, Our friend Mel goes and asks one of the people if it's only going to be those two, if they're still trying to get at least a third, whether it be Quay Walker or trying to find replacements. And we find out it's only going to be Romeo and Kingsley Enagbare. We decide to leave at that point. Not really. I have stuff of Romeo Dobbs already, and nothing against Kingsley Enagbare, but for professional sake, like I don't feel like an obligation to have him because he's on our radio show on The Fan. So it's not like a huge, like I feel professionally like I shouldn't, even though it's a good cause. But anyway, come to find out, probably 20 or so minutes later, the Salvation Army puts a kibosh to the rest of the signing, or not a kibosh to it, but they say, they cut the line off. They turn probably about 75 people away reportedly. And the guys stand up once the people who had already paid get through and wave and head home. Where the noogie comes in, there's a couple factors here. One, I think the team should have been a lot more in front of the situation. Reporting that, dude, even if it's not 100% true, that Christian Watson, Jair Alexander, due to injury, aren't able to make it, or whatever the situation is. Or at least, because there's people who came from across the state for this, and not even being that guy, but I mean, it's a lot of money to some people, and that's kids' Christmas presents. There's a lot of kids who, they wore their jerseys, they had canvases made, all that stuff, and all things considered, I mean, it's a pretty fairly cheap way to meet a couple of your favorite players,
right?
And definitely cheaper than their autographs are individually.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it's for a good cause, so it's just kind of a lot of people drop the ball in the situation in my book.
I mean, we have social media now. We have everything that we can do to get information to everybody, and we didn't use it.
Right, whether it be the Packers themselves or Salvation Army or whatever.
Like, you can't tell me they couldn't, like, A.J. Dillon couldn't have came, or
Right, and I mean, the rumors are that he's going to be in the second one.
Who cares?
Or the third one. But, right, it's just one of those things where I think a ball got dropped at a number of different turns. It would have been nice, and I hope the Packers end up making it right on the 18th at the other signing. I feel like in some capacity they will. But
they need to.
Because they need to have like a whole bunch of guys there, and ideally for longer than about 45 minutes worth of signing. A, for the Salvation Army's sake, and B, just for the sake, again, like I said, just of kind of doing right by your community and your fans, because there's a lot of sad and upset kids, which it's not the Packers' faults if they're had certain obligations that they're expected to be there for an hour, and once that hour is done, that is what it is. That's what they're talked to, contracted for, whatever. But I don't know. I just think it's a bad look.
Right. It's a very bad look.
So
it's a bad look on the players and on the team.
Yeah,
it made everybody look bad.
Be transparent.
Right.
If it's a situation, like I said, if it's a situation where if it's due to injury and rehab work or whatever the situation is, if you own that situation and you post on social media and get people who've either taken time off or are traveling from across the state or whatever the situation is, or kids who you're about to spend $50 and you're in some people's eyes not getting to get your full money's worth based on what you're going there to expect.
Right.
It's just a little kind of shitty.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, moving on. We're going to go back to positive here. And I know that the whole week went by. Only one Taylor Swift mention in the broadcast on Sunday.
I was very surprised.
But we're not totally done with her yet. Because our Wisconsin web story of the week, it's a real quick one this week, talks about how a baker in Marinette, a Marinette County woman, has a unique connection to Taylor Swift's Lambeau Field appearance on Sunday night. And this is coming courtesy of WBAY here in Green Bay. And it talks about Erica Dunn, who was featured in one of their small town stories, makes cookies for fans in the suites on Packers game days. And last Tuesday, she was informed that Swift would indeed be coming to cheer on the Chiefs and her boyfriend, Travis Kelce. Dunn then put her talents to work and created the Chiefs and Taylor Swift themed cookies, which were in the suite waiting for her. Dunn would go on to say, quote, that, to be able to give her a gift with my cookies in an opportunity that you can't pass up and will probably never happen again. I keep hoping maybe she really likes them and needs one every day, and then I'll just be sending them to her, said Dunn. Dunn said that she's now busy making more than 900 cookies for Packers' annual Christmas party coming up.
Wow.
So just kind of a cool moment. Not really Taylor Swift involved, but the WBAY story has some of these, like the pictures from those cookies, and they're pretty cool.
Right.
Also, quick shout out while we're just, again, kind of putting a bow on this. I don't know if you had saw this on social media or not, Sean, but Mel and Ramsey's, they have their side business with Mitch and Julie, where they sell jerseys, courtesy of Riverwood Gallery Studio in Gillette, Wisconsin, where they sell their custom jerseys, their autographed memorabilia, etc. And they had jerseys with the Chiefs jersey with 87 on the back that says Taylor's boyfriend, which were featured on ESPN's pregame show on Sunday morning from their Stadium View booth.
Nice.
So if you want to get a hold of one of those jerseys, their information on how to order one is available on my Instagram or my Twitter page. Also, I believe we have it on our Root for Wisconsin social media as well, because it is the Riverwood Gallery Studio, courtesy of the Riverwood Gallery. So shout out to Mitch and Julie and Mel and Rams for being featured on ES-freaking-PN.
Right.
So did want to make mention of that as well.
They sell a lot of them?
Yes, they were. I think they had one or two remaining from what they had made for the weekend.
Nice.
So if you're still looking for one, or if you want to custom order one here going forward, by all means, like I said, their contact information is out there, or message one of us for it as well if you don't have it and if you can't track it down.
Right.
Moving on to the world of sports and back to kind of our conversation, our trip around the state. Badgers wrapped their season up 2 weeks ago. They beat Minnesota, or regular season, I should say. They draw the ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa, Florida on New Year's Day, which is a bigger bowl. It's formerly known as the Outback Steakhouse Bowl, which is the Badgers have played in quite a bit throughout our lifetime, Sean. But they will be playing LSU in that game. And the early line on that game, if you had to guess, Sean, what would you guess? LSU, Wisconsin.
LSU by 10.
10.5.
10. Yeah,
Good job.
Close.
So Badgers, big underdog going to that one. They will be likely without Braylon Allen, who is declared for the draft already. Also going to be without Shamiri DK, who has announced that for his graduate season, he's going to go into the transfer portal. So, a couple weapons down already, but all in all,
it'll be fine when we have Arch Manning next year. No big deal.
So Sean says that, and I'm glad he brought it up. The Badgers are at an interesting point of where they are as a program. Obviously, regular season they go 7-5. After bowl season, they could be 8-5 or 7-6, depending on the outcome of that last game. Not quite the outcome that a lot of Badgers fans had hoped for, but also a very realistic outcome, I think, of when you consider how
100% realistic.
Where this coaching staff was left with this team a year ago when Luke Fickell took over. So, personally, I'm not too upset. I get it.
No, you need a year to change the culture. You need
to get some of your recruiting and your own guys in. So, with that in mind, Tanner Mordecai, who, for better or worse, was the Badgers starting quarterback throughout most of the season. When he was injured, it was Braden Locke, who I would say is a better thrower of the ball than Tanner Mordecai was, but isn't the true quarterback that you need for an air raid type offense. You need somebody who can move, can run, etc. So where that puts us and where Sean brought up Arch Manning for, because last week it was, there's a plethora of college football quarterbacks over the last only 3-4 days who've been announced that they're going to be entering the transfer portal. One of those not being Arch Manning, but
Really?
he is not. Yeah.
But I had mentioned
is Ewers going to be in the draft?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I feel like he's not going to be.
But I had mentioned that I think a great fit for Wisconsin, if they're not sold on who they have in their quarterback room, or if they're just looking to buy another year for some of these guys like a Nick Evers or Cole LaCrew or Braden Locke for that matter. If they're looking to buy kind of a year for one of these guys to develop just a little bit more, a potential kind of Band-Aid fit I think would make a lot of sense would be DJU, which I'm not even beginning to try to pronounce his last name, formerly of Clemson and most recently of Oregon State, who has gone to the transfer portal. Very much a spread offense, can run, pretty decent thrower of the ball. I would love to. I think he would make a lot of sense for the Badgers to pursue. Again, if they don't believe that the guys in their own quarterback room are 100% ready for the job. They also do have a quarterback, 4-star recruit coming in as a true freshman next year out of Texas who looks like Trevor Lawrence.
Nice.
And I forget what his name is.
Trevor Lawrence?
It is not Trevor Lawrence.
Oh.
But he looks a lot like him. He's got the sunshine look to him. It's a double M name, and I'm going to hate myself because I can't remember it. But would be an interesting, I think, 1-year option for the Badgers. And then Sean, of course, goes and says, Arch Manning would be fun.
I think so.
I don't think he's going to come to Wisconsin.
Why?
Just a gut feeling.
Your gut's been wrong before.
It has been. That is factual, but not frequently. Yeah, okay, that's not frequent. But, Arch Manning is expected to stay at Texas for next year. And there is reports saying that Quinn Ewers is expected to remain with the Longhorns next season as well.
I don't think he stays at Texas.
I don't 100% either. I
really believe he goes to Alabama.
Really?
That's the team that I'm picking that he's going to go to. You figure Alabama never has a good quarterback.
What are you talking about? They had Jalen Hurts. They had Tua. They had. I'm kidding.
Right. They've never had a guy that could go and win them a game. They've relied on that defense for the longest time.
Who would you say the last great Alabama quarterback is?
That just played for Alabama or was good in the NFL?
That just Alabama talk. Not NFL withstanding. I mean, because I'm talking like a conversation like you think of like Tim Tebow, Johnny Manziel as guys who were excelled in college.
Right.
Didn't transit to the NFL for whether it be personal choice or
you'd have to almost go back to what, AJ McCarron?
That's exactly who I had in mind.
Greg McElroy?
Yeah, that's exactly the two I had in mind.
Because I seen the tweet, or was it a tweet about Greg McElroy saying Alabama relied on their defense and never always had good quarterback play and never relied on a stout defense. It was something like that, and they showed the national championship game where he threw for 58 yards.
I'll try to find the quote here.
You know, you did see it at some point.
I saw it. It came out 2 days ago. ESPN roasted for having Greg McElroy explain why Alabama made over Florida State, and I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Doesn't have his exact.
No, I think
quote,
it was.
But I know what you're talking about. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he threw for like 58 yards in a national championship game, and they still won by a ton.
Right.
But that to me is your last good Alabama quarterback.
Yeah, him and AJ McCarron.
Right, and they were horrible in NFL.
AJ McCarron made a career out of being a back. Isn't he still playing?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's not Cincinnati anymore. See, no, not the Raiders. That's Aiden O'Connell.
He is for the Bengals yet.
Is he for the Bengals?
AJ McCarron's pro career, he played for the Bengals from 14 to 17. In 2018, he was a member of either the offseason or practice squad for the Bills. Later got picked up by the then Oakland Raiders. 2019 to 2020, he played for the Houston Texans. 2021 for the Atlanta Falcons. 2023 played for the St. Louis Battlehawks. And is now a member of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Wouldn't that be a dream job, though? Be a backup quarterback in the NFL?
Oh, absolutely. It's that and bullpen catcher.
Those are my two dreams.
Or a punter.
It's a lot of work.
Is it though?
I mean, Pat McAfee had like 4 or 5 leg surgeries and back surgeries.
Yeah, but Pat McAfee did a lot of dumb stuff that a lot of punters don't do anymore.
You're not wrong.
But I mean,
I think backup quarterback and bullpen catcher have to be right up there.
right.
Practice squad quarterback even maybe better.
Yeah.
Because I mean, backup quarterback you're gonna make maybe like $1 million a year, but even a practice squad quarterback, a couple $100,000.
Well, you just look at Kurt Bankert.
Yeah, I mean he's going to go down as more known for not football.
Right. But we were talking before we started tonight that about his TikTok today and just going over all Jordan Love's plays from Sunday night, and it was just really neat to watch and get it explained from somebody that actually knows what they're talking about. It's not Chris Collinsworth.
It's really interesting to me how like guys, like Kurt Bankert, who this is not a shot at Kurt Bankert, but he was a third string quarterback, practice squad guy, but the mentality was there.
Right.
Like he can explain
100%.
it, he can see it, he can make it make sense, he can communicate it. And then, it's kind of one of those things where you talk about like in baseball, like catchers end up being a lot of the best managers and role players end up being
100%.
the best managers. Not for, like it's not usually the superstar.
Right.
Who ends up being the best coach. And
because they rely on their ability rather than their mindset.
Even like when you look at broadcasters, the superstars don't always end up being the best broadcasters.
No.
I mean, Peyton Manning's just a dorky guy, so
right.
He's relatable for that. But it's guys like, I think Tony Romo's really good.
Right, I agree, Tony.
I know he's a very, a lot of people don't love him.
Right, but he also sees, like Kurt Bankert, he sees things as they're happening.
Right.
And can react to them as they're happening.
And communicate it in a very plain style.
But you look at it this way, too. He's still 10 years behind what Kurt Bankert is.
Right.
For, like, film-wise and seeing everything.
Right. And even, like, Troy Aikman, I know a lot of Packer fans hate him, and a lot of people don't like him as a broadcaster because, he's still very loyal to the Cowboys, but
he wasn't a very good quarterback.
No, he wasn't. He was a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but that really makes me wonder, like, what Tom Brady's gonna be as a broadcaster whenever he starts.
I don't know.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is he very well could be very great because he's just wired that way, and he's great at everything he's done.
Right,
but he also could just be kind of cringy and not great because he was so on a different plane as everybody else he played with. Yeah, he had to work hard for it. The mentality was there for it as a player. But how do you communicate that to the average Joe who's half in the bag when the game starts?
Exactly.
How do you communicate that to your listener, or even working with your play-by-play guy? There's so many different things that go into the chemistry of a broadcast besides just knowledge, and you have to be able to communicate that knowledge. So, very curious on how he ends up turning around. But yeah, Kurt Bankert, excellent job with that. Looking at basketball, real quick, we'll start with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks are currently leading the Knicks at the quarterfinals of the in-season tournament, 75-72. So they potentially punch a ticket to Las Vegas with to the semifinals of the win tonight. The Pacers won last night. Again, Tyrese Halliburton, former Wisconsin native. I guess Wisconsin native. I don't need to say former, do I?
No, not really.
Wisconsin native had the huge game, triple-double last night, so it was kind of worth mentioning for that. And then kind of looking at the Badgers. Badgers are up 68-57 after taking down Marquette over the weekend. They're potentially 40 seconds of game time away from knocking off Michigan State. Their first time in the rankings. They came into today's game, I believe, at 23 in the AP poll. So after some big wins over the Thanksgiving holiday, as well as the win against Marquette, Badgers 23 in the country and about 40 seconds away from winning. Green Bay men went on took on Milwaukee at home and got the win over the weekend. Go to 4-3 on the season, 3-0 at home. And for their sake, really kind of worth mentioning here is in the first net rankings that came out yesterday, Sean, released by the NCAA and how they look for potential seeding.
Yep.
Green Bay was 362 in the nation last year at the end of last season.
That's dead
second,
last. Right?
Second to last.
Oh, second to last.
But would be dead last this year because the only team that was worse than them by those rankings and the Ken Palm rankings was Hartford. And they dropped Division I basketball. So there's only 362 teams.
Okay.
In one season, or not even a full season, but in the time of Sundance Wicks and the new roster and Noah Reynolds, who's been an incredible get, probably should not be playing in the Horizon League, but I'm glad that he is. Well, he was actually committed to play for the Badgers, and then his brother got the assistant coaching job at Green Bay with Coach Wicks. Came with him from Wyoming, and he ended up decommitting from Wisconsin and coming to Green Bay to play under his brother, and again to stay with Coach Wicks as an assistant from Wyoming. Excuse me. So, with that in mind, the Green Bay Phoenix men go from 362 to 217.
Wow.
Over the course of 7 games.
145 spots. So,
absolute incredible turnaround early on here for the Phoenix. Still a lot of work to do for their sake and what Coach Wicks and everybody else would say, but very exciting time to be a fan of them. As mentioned, the Green Bay women did lose today to DePaul. Again, you talk about just an incredible program, though, Sean, and the net rankings that came out yesterday for the women's side, 27 in the country.
Wow.
I believe by my count, unofficially, they would have checked in at 37 in the AP poll. They were receiving votes, but about 37.
That's with the loss, you said?
Before the loss.
Oh, before.
So we shall see how that ends up impacting them. I believe that's their only game for the week.
Because were DePaul ranked higher than them?
No.
They're
like a 500 team.
Gotcha.
But anyway, I digress. So kind of look around the state. Marquette looks to avenge their loss to Wisconsin, where they've actually lost 2 in a row now. Or no, 2 of their last 3, excuse me, where they lost to Kansas, came back home, beat the crap out of whoever, then go on to lose to Marquette. They play Texas tonight back at, I believe it's at the Fiserv. Yes, at Fiserv Forum. Tickets are still available as we talk, but would not be communicated in time. But they are as low as $4 for tonight's 7 p.m. tip against Marquette. Actually, it's tomorrow. I take that back. So tickets for those listening tomorrow morning, as we record tonight here on the 5th, tickets for the game on the 6th are available for as low as $4. So if you want to go check out the Marquette Golden Eagles take on the Texas Longhorns, $4 gets you in the door. Anyway, and we're not going to talk about Milwaukee. They lost to Green Bay.
Yeah.
So let's look around college basketball.
Baseball,
yeah. Look at the baseball world.
Is there a D1 college baseball team in?
There's one. It's Milwaukee.
It is. Milwaukee does have a baseball.
Yeah.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Real quick look at the world of baseball. The Brewers making a couple moves over the last couple days here at the winter meetings. Most notably, the deal that we had talked about last week becomes official with Jackson Chourio signing the $8-year, $82 million deal with 2 option years that can potentially be a 10-year, I believe ends up being $120 million deal if all things kind of pan out. Dylan and I had talked about this pretty at length last week, but I just want to get your thoughts on that, Sean, as a Brewers team, Brewers fan, signing a guy to a potentially 10-year contract who has not played an inning of professional or MLB level baseball.
I like it because you can see with the potential that he's got, and to get a guy like that signed for 10 years to be the face of your franchise is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I like the fact that they got out in front of it.
Right.
And did like an Acuna type deal or a Soto type deal and kind of do what they need to do.
It gives them a lot of being able to get other players around him and not have him being a $50 million cap hit. Well, there's no salary cap in the MLB. So, but just being able to have a guy like that locked up for 10 years is kind of crazy.
It really is. And
just
if it's something that-
don't buy his jersey because he'll get traded.
yeah, no, I'm not going to. But it's kind of one of those things where if you buy in now and you end up being wrong, it's a $10 million deal,
Right?
Or $10 million a season. That whatever, it's not chump change, so it's chump change.
Right, but the thing is, he could still be a decent player and still be worth that.
Oh, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I mean, for what it's worth, Wade Miley just signed another 1-year deal for $7.5 million or $8 million.
Right.
So you sign a veteran 1-year guy. I mean, you basically just have a bunch of 1-year deals,
right,
for about the same amount. Yeah, it's a base of $7 million for Wade Miley, $1.5 million buyout, and can make up to $11 million with incentives for Wade Miley.
Yep.
Which also I think is a pretty big deal, considering that that's going to probably be one of your veteran guys on this rotation next year.
And I do think Corbin Burns is going to get traded.
Oh, 100%. It's not even being hidden well.
No.
If it doesn't happen by the end of the week or by the end of the month, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I would too. By the end of these winter meetings.
Yeah, it really is one of those, again, worst kept secrets that just everything kind of seems to be falling that way.
I think Ohtani needs to sign somewhere, and then I think the Corbin Burns saga begins.
Well, Juan Soto is going to have to get traded somewhere too. I think that's going to be the second big domino to fall.
That haul that they want from the Yankees for Juan Soto is incredible.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
It's insane.
And for what it's worth, I think the haul that the Brewers would get back from Corbin Burns for whoever it would end up being to is going to be a pretty big haul for a 1-year rental.
Right.
With the assumption that they're probably going to look to sign right away, because it's probably going to be like the Dodgers or somebody that is going to make us all angry.
Yeah.
But they're going to, it's going to be
it'll be St. Louis.
I don't know if I could stomach that, Sean. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
The Cubs.
That's somehow better, and I can't explain why. I could stomach that more than the Cardinals. Because if he goes to the Cardinals, he's probably going to win like 2 World Series.
Right. That's the issue.
And just be the biggest thorn in everyone's side and play there for the rest of his career. Go in the Hall of Fame as a Cardinal, even though he's a Cy Young winner here. I can't do that. I'm already seeing it happening in my brain, and it's just spinning, and I don't like it, Sean. I'm if that happens, I'm gonna need some help. We're gonna have to go to a bar and probably Gordy's and drain them of all the hams and old styles that they have and can get, because I'm not gonna be well. There's gonna have to be a wellness check if that happens.
100%.
I'll be sad. Anyway, so that's really the big news out of Milwaukee. I believe they did come to terms with another player. They also did announce that Governor Evers did okay the $500 million stadium upgrade, so the Brewers are here through 2050.
Holy man.
So that's always great. So Brewers baseball will continue to absolutely ruin my summers for the next 27 years.
So Ananazio just couldn't afford all these upgrades, or?
I don't want to talk about it. Why are you doing this to me?
Wow. I haven't been here for a couple weeks.
I get.
Or is he going to sell the team now? Which would be fine.
Okay. So
Mark Cuban came into a lot of money, so Mark Cuban could buy the team.
I'd be pretty happy.
Oh, that would be awesome.
But okay, so I'm just kind of looking through the ESPN. Critics, including a number of Milwaukee area legislators, insist that the Brewers deserve nothing and the state should spend its tax dollars on programs to help people. Mark Ananazio has an estimated net worth of $700 million, and the team itself is estimated for $1.6 billion. And Yeah, they gave $500 million for repairs over the next 3 decades to keep the Brewers here.
For the next 3 decades.
Yeah.
Does it say how much money the Brewers make in a year? Like their revenue in a year? Anything like that?
I
Because I remember that was a real interesting topic when we went to the shareholder meeting for the Packers.
Let me see if I can find that.
Just how much money was rolling through Lambeau Field any given Sunday. I mean, it was just insane. And even to lose, they lost a game, or they lost one of the home games last year with going overseas and whatnot.
It was a bonus game, though. You got to remember that. They still had 8.
True.
2022 operating income for the Milwaukee Brewers franchise per Statista.com amounted to about $23 million.
That doesn't seem right.
Yeah, that seems off, too.
Is that like in a month?
Let me look at this a little further.
Yeah, well, we can reconvene next week. Do a little bit of research over the weekend.
$294 million.
That makes more sense.
9% increase over the revenue generated the previous year.
There you go. That makes way more sense.
Yeah, I don't know where that other number came from. That was like a 1 month in.
So that's $294 million that they're clearing.
Yes.
That's just insane.
Yeah, but we have a payroll that's bottom half of the MLB.
But still.
I don't want to talk about it. Now I'm crabby. Now I'm crabby again, Sean.
But still, like, we wouldn't have had to pay for these upgrades.
Yeah, here's the...
I know, I understand the issue with it was that he was saying he was going to leave, all that kind of stuff. It's like...
The money that it brings in, because, I mean, that's... You got to figure in hotels and, local businesses. You don't want that to leave.
Well, of course
especially
not.
Because the MLB refuses to expand, and they're going to Vegas instead of Oakland. They're actually going to a smaller market for media size and all that.
Yeah, but it's more money.
They're not actually expanding. I mean, there hasn't been a new team, I think, since the 90s. I mean, let me take that back. The 2005-ish move by the Expos to come to Washington, D.C. occurred.
Yep.
But there hasn't been expansion franchises since, I believe, the Marlins in
98.
98.
97, 98.
Was it
something
Diamondbacks
like that.
in there too, or was that before? That might have been 94.
Diamondbacks were right around there, I think. Because I just watched a whole thing on Randy Johnson not that long ago.
Yeah, I believe
And
the
that was one of
Diamondbacks were
his-
slightly before. Regardless,
Right.
it's been 25 years since there's truly been expansion, and it's been about 15-ish since a team even moved cities. I mean, yes, there is a move coming up with the A's going to Vegas, so I guess that kind of resets that. But the fact that that is the only movement, and there isn't, new cities being awarded franchises, and that you're not expanding a game where the NHL has expanded, I think, twice as of late. The NBA,
How many teams does NHL have now?
I believe they're either up to 32 or they're up to 30. I can't remember how that all falls out, but the NBA has really not expanded too much. I guess there really hasn't been a whole lot of movement in the last several years. Really, the NBA's last one was
The Bobcats.
I was going to say the Sonics going to Oklahoma City.
Oh, that's
Even
another
that's been
10 years.
15
10, 15.
ish
Yeah,
years.
09?
Yeah.
08, 09?
Yes. Because it was right after KD's rookie season.
Yep. And then Russ was the first pick for
The
OKC.
Thunder.
Yep.
So there really hasn't been a lot of movement there. The NFL has had probably the most movement, but not expanding.
Yep.
Which I think is also interesting. I'm surprised that there hasn't been more there either.
I think everything changes within 5-10 years. Lot's going to change for the NFL. I think you're going to have a overseas or international team at some point here. 5-10 years.
Oh, absolutely. It's I think it's overdue at this point, to be honest with you.
Yes.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened because this is, the last 2-3 years we've even had where teams play following a London game. Like, it's not the automatic bye anymore.
Right.
And I think the NFL is saying, hey, like, this is a doable thing.
Right. It's not the best thing to do by any means, but
No, and I mean, you can argue that the Packers got kind of derailed by that last year.
yeah.
Coming back and not really finding their footing after coming back from London for 3-4 weeks at a time there.
You can't blame the London game.
Oh,
though,
no,
'cause
I'm not.
Every team has done it, so it's not like
I'm just saying because the Packers did it without the bye, like you can argue that it impacted them more than they thought it would.
I just don't know how you would do a division with a London team. That'd be the only thing. That'd be I think that's the biggest issue, 'cause to have 2 games there and that kind of.
Well, you'd
stuff.
only have 1 game there, but they'd have to come here for.
Right.
That's a lot of travel for that individual team.
It would make more sense to have like your Mexico City
Or somewhere in Canada.
or somewhere in Canada. I think a Toronto football team would be awesome.
Yeah.
Just the way that place was rocking when the Blue Jays were the Jose Batista Blue Jays and Edwin Encarnacion.
Even like this last offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think of how. Yeah, now I'm kind of stuck on that. Now I'm trying to think of how you would make that work, where you might have to do 2 and 2, like 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there,
Right.
and it'd be like the most predictable schedule. But
Mhm.
you'd have to have something like that to make it all flow and work.
Yep.
That's somebody for bigger minds than us.
Yeah, 100%.
Although if the NFL wants to come in and pay us to figure it out, we can figure it out.
Yep.
It's just
We can go to Gordy's, have a few hams and
We'll
old style, and we'll figure it out.
It might not be the best logistical way, but we'll figure something out for you. So NFL, if you're listening, hit us up.
We got you.
The DMs are open. All right. Moving on, staying with the NFL then. The Green Bay Packers have now won 3 in a row. They have won 4 of their last 5 after I'd say dominant win
Yes,
over the Kansas City
100%
Chiefs, where
dominant
I
win.
think they were the better team from start to finish. And I think it changes the narrative on this season. Now, technically, a lot of football to play, but the season ended today. They'd be a 7 seed and in the playoffs, which is quite incredible when you think of what this team was like a few weeks back at 2 and 5.
Yep.
Narratives have changed. Analysis has changed. The team has changed, for that matter, too.
100%.
There's been a lot of growth, which is, I think, all Packer fans have wanted. And honestly, I think we're in a position where I think you're getting close to having to extend Jordan Love in season.
I think so.
And I think it's close to being a unanimous good move.
So you're not thinking we're going to take a quarterback in the draft anymore?
I want to be very clear. I said this last week, Sean. I'll say it again.
I didn't listen last week,
know
so
you
you're
didn't.
going to have to tell me again.
I think based on where the team was, and actually really until this last week, I kind of still was having my question marks. And I'll be the first to admit that I had, wow. Giannis is so tall. I wish I could do that like once. Anyway, I don't think you have as many question marks because I think we've seen consistent growth against very good teams. That's not just luck.
Right.
It's not just flukes. It's not just, taking advantage of a bad situation. We have seen consistent play out of Jordan Love really since the Chargers game.
Yep.
Which, I would say, well, actually, I would even go back to the Steelers game, the one that they lost right before that.
Yep.
Because they had beaten the Rams where it was kind of ugly.
Yep.
And I don't even think I'd say that. But in the 4 weeks following that, Steelers, Chargers, Lions, Chiefs, we've seen consistent growth. We've seen a lot of improvement and just in simple reads. And
you've seen confidence.
You've seen confidence. You've seen the playbook open up a lot more. And so it's the coaching staff buying in, it's the players buying in, it's the receivers being on the same level. So all those things aside, or all those things kind of put together, where I think when we were talking about this, and like I said, for our listeners, I'm not flipping a side on this. I'm just giving analysis. I think you're in a position where you can extend Jordan Love very confidently now, or damn near close to that. Whereas probably 4 or 5 weeks ago when we were first talking about this, where it was even a conversation, was, yeah, Jordan Love was doing okay. Like, there was slow growth, but at the time you can look at, okay, here's how contracts work in the NFL. You've got two routes. You can either pay him something and try to build around him, or you can pick a new draft pick, pay them next to nothing, and do what the 49ers doing with Brock Purdy, who is now an MVP favorite.
Which still does make sense,
But the argument would be that you would just build everywhere else around, and the quarterback, as long as you don't suck, is more or less irrelevant.
right.
Now I think we're confidently at the time where I think Jordan Love might be the guy. And we're seeing things like the play that stands out to me the most this last week. I mean, yeah, there was the big throws. Like, everybody gets excited about the Dobbs, where he drops in the bucket.
That could have very easily been picked off.
Right. The play that I think says the most about the growth of the team as a whole, but specifically Jordan Love, is, and Kurt Becker pointed this out well, but I remember thinking this on Sunday Night Football, and you can check the receipts. They're on my Twitter page, but the first touchdown of Christian Watson, where he was about to scramble, realized he really couldn't get out of the pocket, and at the same time, it just works out where the route concept comes to fruition. Watson bursts on that crossing route across the end zone. The dude's wide open. Has the ability to set the feet, so he's not throwing off the back foot. He's not, overstepping and throwing down. Sets the feet perfectly, plants, and delivers a dart to catch Watson in stride. And that's another thing too, is we're seeing a lot more getting receivers in stride. Seeing a lot more. I know Benker points it out in his TikTok video about on the first touchdown drive, where on a third and 5, 3rd and 6, something like that.
Yeah, something.
He hits Dontavian Wicks and allows the actual play to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And
it also showed that Wicks
timed it in his head
too.
To
he
allow
also
Watson
found the
to help
open
the
spot.
guy clear and find the hole in the zone. So across the board, the team is growing. You have a lot of good young talent that is forming, where you've got guys like Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs and Jaden Reed, who's been and arguably one of the better steals, if you can call a 3rd round pick a steal,
right?
But has been a steal at that 3rd round pick. For that matter, when he's been healthy and lacerated kidney or whatever he did aside, Luke Musgrave was hitting his stride too and really fitting with his offense. And the tight end play for the first time ever, I think, yeah, it was, no, not I think, but for the first time ever, 3 rookie receivers have caught a touchdown pass between Tucker Kraft, Ben Sims, and Luke Musgrave. So the tight end position group is figuring it out. They're all clicking, and you're getting decent offensive line play to kind of let that click too. I mean, it's still
they're still flipping guys though.
Yeah,
which I thought was different. I never noticed it until they pointed it out during the game on Sunday. But why not? If it's working, it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Packers, like I said, I don't want to just say I'm drinking the Packers Kool-Aid. There's a very realistic chance for them to win 4 of their next 5.
Yeah, they got a real easy schedule.
The strength of the schedule, which is something we talked about earlier this season, did favor them, and that you could make the argument that there's a path there. And it's going to be just kind of one of those things where they've got to play their game and continue to grow and execute. The old saying, winning covers warts, still is true. I mean, I think especially the last 2 wins have been, you never say flawless, but have been,
I think,
excellent wins.
The defense still hasn't played up to where they need to play.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I still think no matter what, you got to fire Joe Barry by the end of this year.
Yes, that is,
or at the start of next season. It's got to happen.
That is point number 1.
This whole bend don't break defense
It works in Madden,
right?
but it's not supposed to work at the NFL. It's not sustainable.
No, it's just not. I mean, you're going to run into a buzzsaw and you're going to lose 45-10.
Yeah, exactly what the Packers did in the early 2010s.
Right.
You think about the 15-1 season where the one loss was ironically to the Chiefs in the regular season. They got blown out.
Right.
And then in the playoff game against the Giants, they get the doors kicked off them again. And it takes one game of not scoring every single drive where you have even 2 drives where you don't score and you're down 2 possessions.
Yep. Because you look at it this way, Kansas City could have scored a touchdown on both their first possessions, and it's a 14-14 game.
Right.
Going into halftime instead of 14-6.
Yeah, and that's night and day different. You hold the Chiefs technically to 1 touchdown, which great.
Right.
They're a top 10 scoring defense, but they're also giving up field goals where you could argue that they shouldn't be giving up. They should be getting punts.
Right. 100%.
So they forced them when they needed to this last week, so it all ends up working out.
Did you see that there was only 5 drives in the first half?
Well, with the first drive, I don't know what it ended up taking up. 7.5 minutes, 2/3 of the opening quarter. And again, that's where you talk about the growth of this team. That ends up in 6 or 7 instead of 3.
Right.
Which shows the growth of where this team's come and what needs to continue happening.
Which I think that's exactly what they needed to do on Sunday. They needed to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, and
I mean, looking at the box score, Travis Kelce only had 4 catches.
Right.
And yeah, he had a big first down catch himself, but it was like one. I think his long was 24.
Right. It wasn't bad.
You didn't get burned, which I guess if that's how you planned for this game.
Right.
Yeah, it's annoying to watch, and you're sitting there constantly stressed out. But for what it's worth, how great was it feeling stressed out on Sunday?
Was it not feeling stressed out, you mean?
No. How great was it feeling like the game actually mattered?
Right.
Because, those games where you're 2-5, or you kind of looked at this like maybe it's a lost season, and it's not fun.
I was hoping it was going to be a lost season, because I want to go to one more game just for cheaper tickets.
Sure.
but
you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. No,
how fun is it that football matters?
Right.
And it's not, last week we had talked about, is this a false hope rally or is this the start of something real? This is the first game where in this 4 out of 5 game stretch where this is legitimate. There's a lot of things here that are consistent and buildable upon against a very good team.
That's a very good defense that they
it shows the growth of this guy where, you still have the same defensive coordinator you're going against, who's zero blitzed the crap out of you the first time. And instead of being overwhelmed, you're in the headlights with it. Jordan Love's stats: 25-36, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, took 2 sacks, had a quarterback rating of 118.6. That's incredible growth.
Right.
You really think about first career start versus 13th?
Yeah.
He started 13 games in the NFL. 12 this season. They're at 6-6, and the one against the Chiefs. So in 13 starts, the growth of that. I mean, I think I had his numbers pulled up from that first game.
Yeah, it was a struggle.
And just looking at the rest of the box score here, the rest of the team, again, the growth of the rest of the team and helping play complementary offensive football. A.J. Dillon, 18 carries, 73 yards, average of 4.1. Nothing fancy, but was running hard.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Taylor, 2 for 29. Christian Watson, 2 for 15. Jordan Love, 2 for 10. James Robinson had a carry for 2 yards. I didn't know he got in the game.
Yep.
But good for him. Speaking of James Robinson, officially got cut again today and was replaced with a practice squad starting at Kenyon Drake.
Okay.
So, Sean, I wish I could have gotten your reaction on video. I did not realize Kenyon Drake was a free agent in December.
Right, 100%.
Looking at the rest of the stats, so I mentioned the 267 passing yards. Dobbs, 4 for 72 on 5 targets, 7 for 71, and 2 touchdowns for Christian Watson. Dontavian Wicks 3 for 43. Tucker Kraft 3 for 37. Jaden Reed 4 for 16. Malik Heath 1 for 15. AJ Dillon 1 for 14. Ben Sims 1 of 1. And the touchdown. Patrick Taylor 0 catches, 0 yards on 1 target. And James Robinson 1 catch for -2 yards and 1 target. So really a net 0 game for James Robinson. 2 yards rushing on a carry, 1 catch for -2 yards, 2 touches, 0 yards. It's efficiency. I'll give him that. Mediocre. That's the definition of mediocre.
Right, 100%.
No Green Bay fumbles. Just again, complimentary football.
An all-around good game.
Team stats, kind of cleaning it up in a lot of ways. I know we talked about, one of the big things was penalties early in those struggle games. 7 for 63, no turnovers. Won the time of possession battle, 30 minutes, 32 seconds versus 28-9, 28. So very back and forth game there. Trying to find their third down. Third downs, 5 of 10, which was down a little bit. The Chiefs were 7 of 11, but 1 of 1 on fourth down with the love shove, the Packer backer push.
I like the love shove.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
But just a very clean game overall. And looking ahead, again, you don't want to get too overconfident here. The schedule the rest of the way. Monday Night Football next week against the Giants. Packers are a 6.5-point favorite in that one. Then you look at the 17th, Packers-Bucks. Christmas Eve day, Packers-Panthers. New Year's Eve night, Packers-Vikings. And to wrap the regular season up, Bears-Packers at home. Again, that's
all winnable games.
All winnable games. You should expect to probably win 4 of those 5 if the team's executing and getting what they can.
So what, you're figuring the Minnesota?
I'm scared of that Panthers game. And I have no reason to be, other than the fact that would just be like the most
Packer thing
ever. Packer thing, like where they're 1-11 and Christmas Eve comes around and you're on the road and Bryce Young kind of figures it out and runs all over you and throws for 250 yards on top of it.
I think the Panthers take another quarterback with the first overall pick.
They don't have the first overall pick.
Oh, that's right. They traded it.
The Bears do.
The Bears got what? 1-4?
Something
right
like
now?
that, yeah.
Something?
But yeah, I mean, we're talking. Think about that for that a second too. You go from planning for what you're going to do as a top 5 draft pick to being in the playoffs in a matter of 4 weeks.
A month.
Yeah, in a matter of a month. You're going from a top 5 draft pick to a playoff team and realistically having a realistic path to the playoffs, controlling your own destiny. And not even out of conversation for a division win.
Right. Because Detroit hasn't looked.
Detroit's looked beatable. Minnesota doesn't look like a juggernaut.
No. I think losing Kirk Cousins from Minnesota made them very vulnerable and beatable. I think that changed. But even still, I mean, even with Kirk Cousins, they're still beatable.
Right, absolutely. And then the Bears are the Bears.
Right.
And even they've kind of figured it out a little bit, but the Panthers are the only team mathematically eliminated from the playoffs as of today.
Yep.
So, but that one kind of scares me a little bit. A little too much trauma there yet.
Yeah, that's
your quote unquote trap game.
Yeah.
Looking ahead to Minnesota a little bit too much, which, by the way, little tangent here. Shauna and I were looking at possibly, making a trip out to Minnesota for that game, New Year's Eve night. Have the next day off yet. Her sister and brother-in-law live out in the Minneapolis area, so it would have been, we would have had a place to stay.
Yep.
These delusional-ass Vikings fans. This was going to be my nuggie, but I had other stuff to talk about. Delusional-ass Vikings fans. Sean, guess what the cheapest ticket for that Vikings-Packers game on December 31st is right now?
The cheapest ticket?
The cheapest ticket at U.S. Bank Stadium for a team that has no Super Bowl wins, a building that has no history.
Is it $200 a ticket?
No. Keep going.
Higher?
Higher. Significantly higher.
Why? 3?
As of right now, 8:22 p.m. Central Time, December 5th, the cheapest ticket for Packers Vikings on December 31st, $357 per ticket.
That's insane.
And that's for section 348, row 23. So you're in the loge corner, the uppermost corner of US Bank Stadium.
Whatever. No way.
I talked to a guy who is a Vikings fan, and I guess the Vikings fans, to their credit, I will give them a little bit of credit. They kind of purposely priced this one really high because they don't want Packer fans coming in and buying the tickets. I get it, but this is Sunday Night Football, December, again, New Year's Eve night.
Right.
For a team that is, your home team is trending the wrong way with basically your second backup quarterback versus a team that is your cross-division rival and trending the right way. But even, a couple weeks back before the Packers really kind of kicked it in, this was still like a $250, $300 ticket.
Yeah.
Which is, again, delusional-ass Vikings fans for a team that has been dog shit, traditionally speaking, especially in the late part of the season. Forever. Who has never won a Super Bowl, has no history in the building. Like, you could have gone to Lambeau for Packers Chiefs Sunday Night Football with all the Taylor Swift hype.
And sat pretty far down for $350.
Our friends Armando and Caleb bought tickets day up for $75 a piece.
Yep.
In the end zone. I mean, when I had looked, I found them on the Packers.
I found them for face value.
120, 130.
Right.
Not this delusional bullshit of...
I think there was one front row seat in the memorabilia group for 180 for first row.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you were one person and just wanted to go, that would have been perfect.
Oh, absolutely. And this isn't even, I mean, Sean, I'm looking at these tickets on Game Time right now, which, Game Time, if you're listening, love the app. Hit us up.
I'm a SeatGeek guy.
If you're listening from SeatGeek, hit us up. But, Sean, these aren't even like lower level tickets I'm looking at. Like, this is middle of the end zone, so section 223 at US Bank. Row 1, $947.
You could almost buy a box seats for that at Lambeau.
The lower sideline, section 130, which doesn't even give me like a field view, looks like it's approximately at the 20-yard line on the home sideline. Is for 2 seats, it's $715 a piece.
No way.
No, absolutely not. There's zero. This is like ridiculous. I mean, the cheapest 100 section level one I'm seeing, I see $560, $550.
Yeah, I'm good.
Standing room only on the lower level is $487.
No, I'm good.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I'll sit on my couch and watch it.
Absolutely. I'll go to Gordy's.
Maybe they got a Packer special on hams.
Sure they do. 50 cents. Anyway, so Packers this week, they do have the Giants Monday Night Football. Sean, what do the Packers do to continue the streak?
They need to stop Saquon, of course, and just play the way they've been playing. They haven't just not beat themselves. That's about it. Which is what we've said all the way from the first game of the season. Is Jordan Love doesn't have to be Superman.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to just be serviceable, not turn the ball over, and make plays when he's asked to. That's what we've needed. And this last month, that's exactly what he's been doing. And he's 3-1?
3-1 in the last 4,
but
4-5, or 4-1 over the last 5.
The Pittsburgh game should have been a win.
Yeah, it's one of those moral victories that don't exist in sports. Doesn't show up, but that was like the first time you can like really sit there and say, "Hey, there's a lot here."
Yep, and I think we talked about it that week too. That you can see the chemistry coming, and we talked about this before we started here tonight, that this is about right around this time is when everything started clicking with Aaron Rodgers last year with all the receivers, all the new receivers. It's clicking with Jordan Love. They're having the meetings every Tuesday, and everything's just clicking.
And it's the type of growth that you can realistically build upon. Like, this is a lot of guys who are going to be here for at least the next 2-3 years that you can say, yeah, this is something that is realistically expected to continue.
Yep. So now I got a couple questions for you that about maybe a free agent signing.
Okay.
What do you think about Zach Ertz? If Zach
In the
Ertz,
offseason?
no, he's
Or right now?
Right now. Or do you not want to screw up the chemistry? Because Musgrave hurt for a while.
Musgrave, technically, I believe he would have I think 2 weeks left on the injured reserve if he comes back right away. Not to compare it because it's such a weird injury.
Lacerated kidney. I had to ask Carolyn what this was.
What the fuck does that mean? How do you lacerate something inside? Doesn't that mean cut?
Yes. She's thinking, or the way that she kind of explained it was like you broke a rib and the rib cut your kidney.
Okay, that makes sense. I can get on board with that.
Something along those lines.
Sure.
Which totally makes sense.
The dude played for a quarter and a half after that.
Right.
That's incredible.
So
to answer your question,
yeah,
Zach Ertz. If I knew a little bit more about how a lacerated kidney heals, and the only injury I can even compare it to is Travis Hunter at Colorado, where he came back from a lacerated liver in 3 weeks,
something like that. Yeah.
If that's the timetable we're kind of looking at, and we've gotten very serviceable football out of Tucker Kraft and Ben Sims, and you know that if you even have a feeling that Luke Musgrave is coming back, even if you kind of give him a week to kind of get back in conditioning, I can't imagine that's something you can just hang out and chill with. But
right.
I say no.
The only reason that I would say yes to it would be that veteran presence.
Sure.
That would be the only way I would say yes to it.
But
for roster wise, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I was gonna say, what do you? I mean, yes, it would be great to have a veteran who has been to a Super Bowl.
Yes.
He's a Super Bowl champion, I believe, with the Eagles' first go around.
The first go around, yes.
The Carson Wentz.
No, Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. That's what I'm saying.
Yep. Sorry.
The cross season.
Sorry, I blew up.
I believe he was a Super Bowl champion that year. If I'm not mistaken, he played pretty impactful snaps down the stretch for that too. I don't think he was hurt, was he?
I don't remember. That was a Philly special year, right?
Yes.
But he wasn't on the. He didn't throw the Philly special. That was Goddard, right?
Was Goddard in the NFL yet?
Was it Goddard? Philly special.
Now I'm pissed. Now I gotta look.
Right.
But just to answer while we're talking about it, my answer ultimately is no, I don't. Strictly because I don't see where he fits in on the roster, because I think you're trying to develop Kraft and Musgrave especially.
Okay.
And the only way to really do that is playing time, and we've seen that happen with Tucker Kraft, and
he
Luke Musgrave is a day one guy.
Okay.
So for that matter, I say no.
Okay.
I do see where you're coming from. If the Luke Musgrave injury is
more significant than it's leading on.
Well, again, for as much of a lacerated kidney can seem insignificant, but yeah,
right.
As if he's not able to return this season, and you're looking for a third guy not named Josiah DeGuara and kind of filling like a Mercedes Lewis role,
right?
I would entertain it. I think he's gonna probably go somewhere a little bit more now.
He's gonna go back to Philly.
Yeah, that's more likely in my book.
Okay, so then my next question.
Sure.
Where does Aaron Jones fit in this offense when he comes back?
Aaron Jones, when healthy, I still think makes this offense click unlike any other individual player. And that's why you sign a guy like a Kenyon Drake to your practice squad, and why you had a James Robinson who was around, just didn't execute at the same level. But you bring a guy like him in for the sheer reason. Oh, by the way, Zach Ertz had 7 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Gotcha.
And he caught the go-ahead touchdown on a 7-yard pass from Nick Foles in that Super Bowl. So, worth mentioning. He was
Okay.
around.
Okay. Now that we got that figured out.
Yes. What was the question?
Aaron
Jones. Thank you. So, Aaron Jones, and having, I've said even the last couple years when we've talked about the Aaron Jones contract situation, I love Aaron Jones as a player. I think, and as a person for that matter too, he's a great person
100%.
for the community, great person for the city, whatever. Matt LaFleur's offense ideally works at its best when you have a home run type threat at your running back as your RB1. It works at its best when a guy like a Patrick Taylor or AJ Dillon is your RB2, the good old fashioned thunder and lightning cliche.
Right.
So to that end, as the season continues here, I think he has an incredibly big role if he's healthy enough to fulfill it. So going forward, beyond this season, I'll say what I've said the last couple off seasons. If it's not him, you need a version of him. And I think you need a version of AJ Dillon if it's not him, because he's a free agent after this season. Whether or not it's those two actual guys or not, to be determined. I think Aaron Jones is under contract next year yet. AJ Dillon's a true free agent after this season.
It's not a